Hello and welcome back to another interesting puzzle. It's black to move and draw this game. Even if this isn't a very hard puzzle, you will see that black needs to find some interesting moves here to draw this game. For example, you need to start with pawn b4, because if you wanted to start with king a5, white would push you away and he would win your pawns. White wouldn't accept this trade and he will push to c4. And now, what are you gonna do? You cannot go to a5 because white again will push you around and win your pawn. Here, you can go to b5 to defend, so you are forced to a6. And if you try to push your other pawn, white will ignore that as well and just push. The problem is that you cannot attack that pawn from b6, and now your only option is to give up both your pawns. The exact same thing happens if you try to push to b5 right away. So, by the process of elimination, the next drawing move here is pawn to b3. I said that black needs to find some interesting moves. By playing pawn b3, black is essentially giving away his pawn. Now, we will look at the possible continuation for white, which are to take the pawn, to push to c5, or to push to a3. If white will take the pawn, black will go to b4 to restrict those two squares. And white needs to keep defending that b pawn, so he will go to c2. I think that a few of you has blundered here and play king a3, thinking that this is the right continuation. The problem with this move is that after king c3, you are basically cut out and you are forced to go behind white pawns. And now you won't be able to catch them no matter how hard you try. Going back, I think others will have blundered here by moving their king back, either to a5 or c5. Both of them are a mistake here because of the same move from white, which is king to c3. Again, white will push you away and eventually you would be able to win your pawn. Let's see a quick example. You go to b7, king b5, and here if you try to protect your last pawn with king a7, white will go to c6. And if you want to defend with king c7, white will go to a6 and he will take advantage of his extra pawn to cut you away from c6, and now you are 2 pawns down and no way of drawing this. We saw how powerful it's the c3 square. So, is there a move here for black that will keep white away from that square? Yes, it is, and it's another pawn sacrifice. This move is a draw, because if white will take your pawn, you take back, and you have opposition over white. And if white will push the pawn, you will take it again, and this transforms into a drawing endgame. Even if he tries to play king d3 here, you take his pawn, white will take back, and again you will be able to draw this because you have the opposition. Okay, so that was the pawn take. Let's see if white will play pawn to a3 instead. Basically, with that move, white is forcing you to give up the b pawn by stepping back. But this is still a draw, even if white is 1 pawn up and this position looks kind of ugly. This position is a draw because white has a pawn on a rook file, and as black we will take advantage of that. In this position, in order for us to draw this, we will want to either exchange our pawn for white c pawn and keep white king in front of his a pawn to block the promotion square, or to exchange our pawn for the a pawn and to draw this by having an opposition over the c pawn. Let's see this in action. In this position, you have only one drawing move, and that is king to c7, because if you have gone to a7, white will push his pawn, you take, and now white is the one who has opposition. But if you had gone to c7, after white will push his pawn, you will be the one who will gain opposition in the end. And if white tries to move to a6, we continue with c6, and our plan is to keep him over there, on the a file. This is why if he goes to a7, we follow him with c7. If he goes to a8, we follow him with c8. And if he goes to a6, You guessed it, we follow him with c6. And this will be a draw by repetition, or he will trade the a pawn and we will draw this by having the opposition. I want to quickly show you why it was important to keep white kings over the a file, because let's say you will go to c5, attacking the pawn. White will go to b7, and after you take, he takes, and you cannot stop this pawn. And if you are going to b4, white will take your last pawn and will be able to promote one of them. Okay, going black, let's see the last defense with pawn c5. I think this is pretty straightforward. You take, he takes, and it's a pawn versus pawn endgame, which it's very easy. I don't think much explanation is needed here. So there you have it. I told you black needed some interesting move to draw this one. So let me know in the comments if you were able to find all the pawn sack. Cheers, guy!